In a significant escalation of tensions surrounding U.S. China trade relations, a U.S. lawmaker has introduced a bill aimed at curbing the smuggling of Nvidia chips to China. This legislative move comes as the global semiconductor industry grapples with the implications of the ongoing trade war and increasing restrictions on technology transfers to China. The proposed bill not only highlights concerns over national security but also reflects a broader strategy to safeguard American technological advancements from foreign adversaries. The initiative, spearheaded by Representative Mike Turner, underscores bipartisan concerns regarding the potential military applications of advanced chips, particularly those produced by Nvidia, a leader in the graphics processing unit (GPU) market. In a statement, Turner expressed, "These chips are not just components, they are essential for advanced computing capabilities that could be leveraged by hostile nations." This sentiment echoes a growing apprehension in Washington about the role of technology in global security dynamics. Simultaneously, the U.S. is witnessing a shift in the e-commerce landscape, particularly with Temu, a Chinese-based online retailer, announcing a halt to shipments of goods from China to the United States. This decision follows the expiration of the de minimis tariff exemption, which previously allowed low-value parcels to enter the U.S. without incurring tariffs. As a result, Temu has pivoted to a new business model, enlisting local sellers to fulfill orders from within the U.S. to avoid steep tariffs as high as 145% on Chinese goods. The company aims to maintain its competitive edge while adjusting to the changing regulatory environment. "We are actively recruiting U.S. sellers to join the platform, which is designed to help local merchants reach more customers," the company stated. This shift not only reflects the immediate impact of tariff changes but also highlights the evolving dynamics of global trade as companies adapt to shifting regulations. The implications for consumers could be significant, as they may face altered pricing structures and a reduced selection of goods in the wake of these tariffs. As these events unfold, they spotlight broader themes within the U.S. China relationship, particularly the ongoing tensions over technology transfer, trade practices, and national security. The legislative efforts to restrict chip exports and the operational changes by e-commerce platforms like Temu serve as indicators of a new era where technology and trade policies are increasingly intertwined with national security concerns. Looking ahead, the implications of these developments are far-reaching. The anticipated passage of Turner's bill could lead to stricter enforcement of technology export regulations, further complicating the already fraught trade relationship between the U.S. and China. For companies like Nvidia, the challenge will be navigating these new legislative landscapes while maintaining their market share in a competitive global environment. In conclusion, as the U.S. grapples with the complexities of safeguarding its technological innovations, the interplay between legislation and market adaptation will likely shape the future of both domestic and international trade dynamics. With ongoing dialogues and policy adjustments, stakeholders across the board will need to remain vigilant in responding to the rapidly changing landscape of U.S.-China relations. In an era where digital communication shapes societal discourse, the phenomenon of gender trolling has emerged as a troubling byproduct, particularly within China's rapidly evolving media landscape. A recent article published in the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs delves into this pressing issue, spotlighting the intersection of the digital manosphere, feminist activism, and state ideologies. It underscores how online spaces, once considered platforms for free expression, have become battlegrounds for misogyny and gender-based harassment, complicating the narratives around feminism and women's rights in the country. Gender trolling, defined as targeted harassment primarily aimed at women, epitomizes the toxic blend of sexism and patriarchal norms that permeates digital interactions. The article highlights the rise of the digital manosphere, fragmented online communities promoting anti-feminist ideologies alongside the troubling trend of weaponizing feminist rhetoric against individuals. This toxic environment illustrates not only the challenges faced by feminists but also the broader implications of digital discourse on public perception and societal values. A poignant case study features the Chinese film Her Story, directed by Xiaohui, which sparked polarized debates following its release. Celebrated for its women-centric narrative, the film resonated with many, particularly female audiences, for its authentic portrayal of women's experiences. However, it also attracted scorn from predominantly male critics who accused it of promoting political correctness at the expense of men. The situation worsened when Xiao faced backlash from feminist supporters for her engagement with a controversial post on Weibo, revealing the fraught dynamics that characterize digital feminism in China. This incident exemplifies how gender trolling operates as both an ideological weapon and a symptom of the polarized online culture, often overshadowing constructive dialogue. The article further explores the emergence of the digital manosphere in China, where platforms like Weibo, Douyin, and Bilibili serve as breeding grounds for anti-feminist sentiment. Here, men frame themselves as victims of a feminist agenda that they believe undermines their traditional roles. This narrative has found traction through various online forums, where aggressive harassment tactics are commonplace. Such spaces, like the notorious Sun Xiaochuan Ba, offer a glimpse into the darker side of the internet, where misogyny is weaponized and women are routinely targeted for trolling and doxing. This troubling trend is compounded by the intertwining of anti-feminist trolling with nationalist sentiments. As seen in incidents involving feminist activists like Xiao Meili, state-aligned narratives portray feminism as a foreign threat to Chinese values, leading to intensified harassment and public vilification of those who dare to challenge the status quo. This co-opting of misogyny within nationalist discourse reflects a dangerous alliance between digital trolls and state ideologies, where the former amplify narratives that bolster cultural confidence while undermining women's rights. However, the article also sheds light on the potential for feminist activists to reclaim and repurpose the very tactics used against them. Through creative counter-narratives and parody, feminists are finding new ways to challenge misogyny, albeit with the risk of internal backlash and exclusionary practices that mirror the very oppression they seek to dismantle. The phenomenon of weaponized feminism illustrates a paradox. While it can serve as a tool for empowerment, it can also perpetuate cycles of harm within feminist communities, as seen in the scrutiny faced by feminists who do not conform to specific ideological standards. As the digital landscape continues to evolve, the need for alternative forms of feminist organizing becomes increasingly apparent. The article advocates for a shift toward more inclusive practices that prioritize empathy, personal connections, and contextual understanding. Offline organizing, in particular, offers a refuge from the toxicity of online spaces, enabling feminists to engage in meaningful discourse without the specter of surveillance and backlash. Such grassroots efforts can foster a sense of safety and solidarity, essential for nurturing a more equitable public sphere. In conclusion, the interplay of gender trolling, the digital manosphere, and state ideologies poses significant challenges for feminist activism in China. As the digital landscape becomes ever more complex, the future of gender discourse will likely hinge on the ability of activists to navigate these treacherous waters. By cultivating spaces that emphasize care and solidarity, and by harnessing the power of digital mobilization while remaining mindful of its pitfalls, feminists can work toward dismantling the entrenched systems of oppression that fuel gender-based harassment. The ongoing dialogue around these issues promises to shape not just the future of feminism in China, but the broader global conversation on gender equality in the digital age. As the global economy grapples with a series of challenges, the impact of escalating tariffs has become increasingly pronounced, particularly for China. The nation, once the world's factory floor, is now navigating a precarious economic landscape characterized by declining consumer prices, weakened demand, and significant shifts in trade dynamics. Recent reports highlight how U.S. tariffs, introduced under the Trump administration, have not only stifled exports but also triggered a dangerous deflationary spiral within China, raising concerns about its long-term economic viability. The imposition of tariffs, which have reached unprecedented levels of up to 145%, has severely hampered China's ability to export goods to the U.S. This has forced many exporters to pivot towards the domestic market, a strategy that, while intended to mitigate losses from foreign sales, has instead exacerbated the very issues it aims to resolve. As Chinese authorities encourage manufacturers to redirect surplus goods meant for international markets, they have inadvertently flooded the local market, leading to fierce price competition and eroded profit margins. According to Inka Zhou, a senior economist at Barclays Bank, the side effect is a ferocious price war among Chinese firms. Major e-commerce platforms like JD.com are at the forefront of this shift, committing billions to boost domestic sales, including discounts of up to 55% on goods originally destined for U.S. consumers. While such measures may provide temporary relief for exporters struggling to clear inventory, they also risk destabilizing pricing power across various sectors. The ramifications of this strategy are evident in recent economic data. China's Consumer Price Index (CPI) has slipped into negative territory, marking a concerning trend of deflation that has persisted for 2 consecutive months. The Producer Price Index (PPI) has now recorded 29 straight months of decline, indicating that businesses are increasingly compelled to slash prices not out of efficiency gains, but out of desperation to maintain sales. Analysts predict that without a significant change in direction, the deflationary trend could deepen, with Goldman Sachs forecasting a CPI decrease to 0 for the entirety of 2025. The economic landscape is further complicated by a lack of consumer confidence and high unemployment rates. With the job market under pressure, many households are hesitant to make even everyday purchases, leading to a vicious cycle of declining demand and falling prices. As Shan Hui, Goldman Sachs chief China economist, notes, prices will need to fall for domestic and other foreign buyers to help absorb the excess supply left behind by U.S. importers. This oversupply not only threatens to drown domestic consumption but also jeopardizes the livelihoods of millions employed in export-driven industries. China's policymakers face an uphill battle as they contemplate their next moves. The government has signaled a cautious approach to economic stimulus, preferring to observe the situation before deploying extensive fiscal measures. Some economists argue that the authorities do not perceive deflation as an immediate crisis, viewing low prices instead as a means to bolster household savings during a challenging transition period. However, this reluctance to act could prove costly, as prolonged deflation can alter consumer behavior and stifle economic recovery. As the situation evolves, the international implications of China's economic challenges are becoming increasingly clear. If the deflationary pressures continue unchecked, they could ripple through global supply chains, creating competitive tensions for trading partners and obscuring investment forecasts. With no apparent containment mechanism in sight, the potential for these developments to spill over into other economies remains a significant concern. Looking ahead, the urgency for a recalibrated economic strategy is paramount. The transition from an export-driven model to one that emphasizes domestic consumption requires more than just redirecting goods. It necessitates targeted interventions that address the underlying issues of employment and consumer spending. The tools for managing this transition exist, but the willingness to employ them effectively remains in question. As China stands at a crossroads, the decisions made in the coming months will be critical not only for its own economic health but for the stability of the global economy as a whole. As global tensions rise, the United States finds itself at a critical juncture, navigating a complex geopolitical landscape primarily shaped by its relationship with China. Recent developments indicate that the U.S. military is prioritizing preparations for potential conflict with China, particularly concerning Taiwan. This shift comes on the heels of a trade war that has been leveraged by the U.S. as a tool of economic and strategic pressure against its rival. The implications of these actions not only raise questions about national security but also highlight the intertwining of military strategy and commercial interests in Silicon Valley. In a leaked memo reported by The Washington Post, the U.S. Department of Defense has made it clear that preparing for war with China is now its foremost objective, overshadowing other pressing issues. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, a figure known for his aggressive rhetoric, has traveled to Japan and the Philippines, emphasizing the need for U.S. allies to stand firm against perceived Chinese aggression. During these visits, he outlined the Pentagon's focus on real war plans against China, especially concerning Taiwan, which Beijing views as a breakaway province. The Pentagon's recent deployment of the Typhoon missile system to the Philippines exemplifies this military escalation. With its capability to strike deep into Chinese territory, this system marks the first significant land-based missile deployment by the U.S. outside its borders since the Cold War, signaling a shift in military posture that has angered Beijing. Analysts have called this move a blatant provocation, further entrenching the U.S. China rivalry. The trade war initiated by former President Donald Trump in 2018 has evolved into a nuclear trade war, with tariffs soaring to as much as 245%. President Joe Biden has continued this aggressive stance, aiming to cripple China's high-tech sectors through an array of tariffs and export restrictions. This economic confrontation has not only strategic implications but has also become a lucrative opportunity for Silicon Valley oligarchs who are increasingly investing in defense technologies aimed at countering China. Prominent figures in the tech world, such as Palmer Luckey of Anduril Industries, are betting on the potential for conflict. As a major defense contractor, Anduril is focused on developing autonomous weapons systems tailored for a future confrontation with China. The influx of venture capital into the defense sector has surged, with investors pouring $130 billion into defense tech startups over the past 3 years, reflecting a significant shift in how the U.S. military acquires new technologies. The implications of this technological arms race extend beyond mere profit. The U.S. Army has begun forming new units designed to operate in a dispersed manner across the Pacific, a strategy that aims to enhance its ability to strike from land while mitigating risks posed by China's advanced military capabilities. However, experts caution that such a strategy may encounter substantial logistical and communication challenges, potentially undermining its effectiveness in a conflict scenario. As these military preparations unfold, Taiwan's energy security has emerged as a focal point of concern. The island relies heavily on energy imports, making it particularly vulnerable to a potential blockade by China. Recent military exercises conducted by the Chinese military near Taiwan underscore this vulnerability, raising alarms about how long Taiwan could sustain its energy needs in the event of a conflict. Experts suggest that while current reserves could last from 2 weeks to a month under various scenarios, the reliance on foreign energy sources presents a critical weakness. In this precarious environment, the U.S. and its allies must navigate a landscape fraught with historical grievances, economic competition, and military posturing. The intertwining of Silicon Valley's ambitions with military strategies signals a new era of warfare, where technology and capital drive national security policies. As the world watches, the potential for conflict looms large, with each decision made in Washington and Beijing carrying the weight of history and the promise of future consequences. In conclusion, the evolving dynamics between the U.S. and China highlight a complex interplay of military readiness, economic competition, and technological advancement. As both nations brace for possible escalation, the ramifications of their actions will resonate well beyond their shores, shaping global geopolitics for years to come. The future remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the stage for confrontation is set, and the stakes have never been higher. In a bold move to reshape regional dynamics and enhance its position in Asia, China is seeking to establish itself as a primary security provider while simultaneously pushing back against the influence of the United States. President Xi Jinping's recent announcement of a new regional security doctrine highlights this ambition, aiming to build trust among Asian neighbors and foster a sense of collective security independent of external powers. Unveiled during a Central Party conference on periphery diplomacy in April, this security model echoes Xi's 2014 call for Asian nations to manage their own security affairs. Analysts suggest that this approach resonates with growing skepticism towards U.S. reliability in the region, particularly in light of President Donald Trump's trade policies, which many view as unilateral bullying. In the final analysis, it is for the people of Asia to run the affairs of Asia, Xi asserted, positioning China as not just a participant but a leader in regional stability. Shortly after announcing this doctrine, she embarked on a diplomatic tour of Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia, where he emphasized the need for stronger regional cooperation against external pressures. The tour aimed to frame China as a stable partner, capable of safeguarding shared interests amidst rising tensions with the U.S. However, experts caution that Beijing must navigate significant challenges, particularly its ongoing territorial disputes in the South China Sea, which could undermine its image as a benign regional leader. As Xi prepares for an upcoming state visit to Russia, where he will attend the celebrations for the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War, the bilateral relationship with Moscow is also under scrutiny. This visit, expected to take place from May 7 to 10, will include discussions on international and regional issues, further solidifying the strategic partnership between the two nations. The deep personal rapport between Xi and Russian President Vladimir Putin has been pivotal in maintaining strong ties, with both leaders convening over 40 times since 2013. Observers note that the timing of Xi's visit is significant, coinciding with historical milestones that underscore the need to remember the sacrifices made during the war and the importance of the post-war international system. As both countries reaffirm their commitment to commemorating these events, they also aim to counter narratives that downplay their contributions to global stability and peace. The bilateral relationship serves as a counterweight to the perceived unilateralism of Western powers, particularly the U.S. Both nations are committed to promoting a multipolar world and fostering multilateral cooperation through platforms like the UN, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and BRICS. This alignment not only strengthens their diplomatic ties but also enhances their standing in international governance. Looking ahead, the evolving dynamics between China, Russia, and their Asian neighbors will be critical in determining the future of regional security. The challenges posed by U.S. policies and the need for collective security mechanisms could drive further collaboration among Asian nations. As China seeks to position itself as a cornerstone of regional stability, the effectiveness of its new security doctrine will depend on its ability to balance assertiveness with cooperative engagement. In conclusion, as President Xi's administration navigates these complex geopolitical waters, the outcomes of these diplomatic efforts will significantly shape the landscape of Asian security and international relations. The coming months will be pivotal in determining whether China's vision for regional leadership can translate into tangible trust and collaboration among its Asian neighbors, or if it will be hampered by ongoing territorial disputes and external pressures.